What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Friday. Friday is a day where we typically try to enjoy the fruits of our sniff. Once we have a good Friday, we hope to enjoy those fruits of our sniffs into the weekend. Now, I apologize for getting this video a little bit late to you, but it comes with good reason, as you can probably tell. I had a little package arrive in the mail, and as you can see, a statue arrived that I've renamed. This is called Perpetual Noses if you wanted to purchase it, but once artwork is absorbed by me, I turn it into my own. So on its own, it's Perpetual Noses. But here, I name it the fruits of my sniff because it was purchased with money earned via the fruits of my sniff. Are you done hearing that and you want to hear about some Friday sniffs? We'll get right to that. How about last night? Last night, told you that the Bruins, they probably were mailing in the rest of these performances, and I was playing like the Bruins. Well, the Bruins returned to form. I kind of returned to form other than that aforementioned Bruins bet, but a lot of those other things, I know, look, the Kraken made us sweat. That was my favorite bet last night. That's why you should never have quote-unquote favorite bets. There's just your sniffs and then things that aren't your sniffs. But the Kraken came through. The Carter Verhaeghe with the Florida Panthers came through. I mean, every single Panther under the sun registered a point in that one. Mika Zibanejad registered a point, I think, on his first shift. It was a pretty good Thursday. I'll look to continue it on Friday here, despite the fact there are only a few games to choose from. Not the absolute best games, but definitely not the absolute worst. But the first thing that you should definitely know, we've hit a couple Caesars same game parlays this week. We hit the Avalanche one earlier. We hit this Florida one later. And if you go over to Caesars and you're a new user, your first bet's going to be risk-free up to $1,500. Like I'd mentioned, you just got to be a new user located in a state where sports betting is permitted. And if you're the kind of person who it was 2 o'clock, they're like, where's this video? Where's this video? And you're freaking out and you're ticking around your house like a time bomb, you might have a gambling problem and you should probably call 1-800-GAMBLER. But if not, and you patiently waited, I'm patiently waiting for the sniff video, then we're going to have some of these for you today. I'm kind of going to keep going the rest of the way here with the theme. Who desperately needs points and who is looking for the top pick in the draft? However, we got to admit, I'm not choosing anything with the Blackhawks in terms of betting against the Blackhawks. Oh, that was another one that came through, by the way. The Nashville Predators are the secret cashers right now with these unders. Don't tell anybody, though. Nobody's talking about it. That stays between me and you. This stuff gets too big. Everyone's betting Nashville unders, the whole Gray Sports Almanac theory, butterfly effect, Ashton Kutcher. Relax. But between me and you, I'm going to keep taking those Nashville unders. Anyway, looking at the games here on Friday, I'm going to start with a team that needs points. We took them at +1.5 the other night because we didn't trust them, but I like them on the road for the most part. That's the Buffalo Sabres, and I think this is a good chance to utilize that Caesars same game parlay. It's been a while since I've ripped some pirate parlays on here. We got to kind of bring that back when the time is right. Then again, come playoffs, we're going to be ripping a couple of them. Actually, you're going to be ripping those because I can give you, hey, 5 straight bets. That's what we got to do tonight. And you're just going to parlay them all regardless. So every day is parlay day for you. You know how they say twice on Sunday? Well, that's your parlay strategy, except for every day. So I'm going to same game parlay these Buffalo Sabres. I understand they're on the road, but I prefer them on the road, quite honestly. They need these points to stay alive. Washington came back from behind, beat them the other night, so now that they got to climb past a few teams along the way. I do like how they've looked offensively since Tuck has returned, so I will take the Buffalo Sabres to win this one, along with either Tage Thompson or Alex Tuck. Moving on from there, you got those Washington Capitals playing. They're going to be on home ice. It's a winnable game against a team. They're in no man's land. They're too good to be in the race for Bedard, and they're too bad to actually have any faith in. Like, you'd think at home against the Wild without Kaprizov the other night, the Blues are, all right, maybe there's a chance. I stayed away from that one. I told you the Wild are going to be ruckus without Kaprizov. We're getting overs, losses against Arizona, and they had a lead in that game at home. And then the Wild just proceeded to crush them despite not having their best offensive player. So it's not like the Blues are a team that are winning a ton of games at the moment. Washington really needs the game. Ovechkin came back the other night. I'm just going to, Washington can disappoint you. Washington can absolutely disappoint you, but the line is actually decent for a team that's still in the playoff race and has those playoff aspirations. These are all must-win games for teams like the Sabres and Washington. So I'm just going to trust the desperation over the spoiler. I know everyone loves a spoiler, but I like the team who's actually going to be putting in an effort and actually has a lot to play for. So give me the Washington Capitals in that one. If you wanted to same-game parlay or you want to take a snake prop, I've been talking about that trickle-down theory. Oh, by the way, remember that? Sometimes, like on Halloween, you knock once, you don't hear anything, you knock twice, then they come to the door, give you those fresh Reese's peanut butter cups, not candy corn. Always remember that. Anybody who gives you candy corn is a scam, cheap Halloween gift giver. I'd rather be tricked than treated if you're coming to that door with candy corn. A candy that nobody eats any other month of the year other than... You can't even say all of October. There's a 2-week stretch candy corn has its day, which means it's a scam candy. Anyway, what was this in regards to? What the hell was I talking about? Oh, yes. Evan Rodriguez. I told you I'm going to knock twice. Do you see how my mind works? Do you imagine just hanging out with me on a Wednesday, starting on a conversation, how the hell far it could veer off the path? Like in a horror movie, I'm going miles down the wrong road. I'm ending up in that Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner. Now let me wind that back to Evan Rodriguez. I said I'm going to knock twice. You're playing with McKinnon and Rantanen. I'm taking you to get a point. You screw me once, fine. I'm going to knock twice. You're going to answer. Evan Rodriguez from Nathan McKinnon last night. Pop that one in. Same type of thing that I'm going to do today with Rasmus Sandin. Always think of Matt Sundin. But Rasmus Sandin, ever since being traded to Washington, he's their power play defenseman. He's eating 27 minutes per game. This is classic case of trickle-down points for me. I'm going to take Sandin in this one to register a point. There's one power play in that game yesterday. He just fed Alex Ovechkin 4 straight times, and the one-timers didn't happen to go in. But my God, like if you're just getting such an elevated chance of a point when you're taking the player who's dishing it off to Ovechkin on the power play for those one-timers. So I'll take the over half of a point with Rasmus Sundin, and you can even combine that with the Capitals win if you want to do a Caesar same-game parlay. We've bet a ton of unders on Columbus and Anaheim. I see that 6.5, that plus under smiling at me. Look, I am going to take it and stay true to my season-long formula where there's a group of teams. If they play each other, there's not enough talent on the ice. I am going to take the under. But I will have you be a little bit worried about this one. Towards the end of the season, 2 awful teams, there is that potential ruckus factor. Like, who cares? We're at the bottom of the standings. Just let's go. We got backup goalies in. Let's go. So I will take the under 6.5. I will not take the over anywhere. But tread lightly with that one. I would be way more excited if this was 2 months ago and these teams weren't like mathematically eliminated and you can have that bizarre theory that you're still alive in your head. And it's tough, but I still would take the under 6.5 in that particular game. And lastly, we got this Toronto game. Carolina, they lost Svechnikov. They lost Pacioretty. They're going to be more offensively deficient than they previously were. And now that has been the issue with them for years. Sometimes when you play very rigid defensive hockey, sometimes your offense goes a little cold. Now, after being shut out in back-to-back games, they came home, had a pretty good response against Winnipeg, very good response. But there's something weird about Toronto when they're not playing well. Like, they're coming off back-to-back losses, lost to Colorado, and they got outplayed for the majority of that game. Now, Carolina's going in there. There's a bunch of reasons to not bet on Toronto. But when I'm looking on a macro level, there are way fewer scores on Carolina than there are on Toronto. And when Toronto is motivated, and because Tampa's won a few in a row, I think there's a little extra motivation because now Tampa's breathing up on them again. They want that home ice in that series. And for some reason, they bounce back well when the pressure arrives this year. It might be a good omen for their playoffs. This should be a tight game. If I had to choose, I'm going Toronto for this one. I'm going Toronto for this one. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Carolina to win. You know, Freddie Anderson going back up to that building that, you know, gave him some night. That goes one of two ways. Either they play great in front of Freddie and he gets a shutout, or he hears those ghosts again and he remembers what it was like playing in Toronto. I actually veer towards the latter. I also would feel like this would be an under game, just like last game. 2 playoff caliber teams in a contested matchup. It's not like Ottawa, Colorado last night. Like, it's not a coincidence that Montreal, Colorado 8-4, then Colorado, Toronto 1-1, then Colorado, Ottawa right back to 5-4. When you get those two teams who have Stanley Cup aspirations and they play each other towards the end of the year, which is almost like a mini playoff matchup, I'll always veer towards the unders. And that is what I got for you on this Fruits of My Sniff Friday. Fruits of My Sniff Fridays? Did I just stumble into something? Anyway, good luck to all of you. Better luck to me. Make sure you're subscribed to the OddsShopper channel here. Come follow me on Instagram, where I keep the thread updated in the Sniff Central chat. It is what a great feature that opened up, mostly because of you guys. Didn't have that feature before I started complaining to you guys. Like, come on, come over. They're going to open up features and I could share a couple sniffs. And that happened. That happened. Now, once we get to that 10,000, I think they're going to open up other things like live streams to certain people. So if you're in Sniff Central, I can actually do a live stream during the games and you can hear me curse, and maybe I won't curse depending on the audience, but you know what I'm talking about. All right, I'll see you guys over there. Take it easy.